Hi, in this session we looked at strategic planning and concluded that strategic planning is essentially a roadmap that leads organisations from where they are now to where they want to be in the future. So it gives organisations a clear idea for successfully moving from their position that they find themselves in today to the position where they would like to be tomorrow. Look at the work undertaken by such authors as Cohen and Snyder, who essentially describe that process of strategic planning as a roadmap in greater detail. Now, for the purposes of today, strategic planning is generally described as a systematic process that asks and answers the most important questions about ways of linking objectives to actions, or providing the required resources to achieve these objectives, or linking present circumstances to a more meaningful future vision. Strategic planning is seen as a written document that includes a time frame, a mission statement, environmental assessment, goals and objectives, actions and financial plans. So strategic planning is considered a continuous assessment of the current strategy. It's developed by top management in order to analyse over the long term the internal and external environment in order to identify the internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as the external opportunities and threats. And moreover, strategic planning helps organisations to think carefully and systematically in achieving these objectives, to develop effective strategies, better performance, clear goals, increase satisfaction of employees, and effectively anticipate future problems and opportunities. Now, you can think of this as a simple one-page document, something like this. So a vision statement essentially, that describes the long-term results of a company's efforts. You can factor in your target customers and your market needs. A mission statement, the purpose essentially of an organisation. What are your top goals of your organisation? From that, strategic priorities can be considered. Ask yourself, what are they? Write them down. What is it that your organisation needs to achieve within a given time frame? Targets. Well, align these to your priorities. How will you know that your company has been a success, for example? Now, all these points can be addressed in a simple strategic plan. And a good starting point in this area for the purposes of work-based learning is to look at the work by Anzoff. Now, according to Anzoff, who was writing back in the 1960s, strategy and strategic planning are described by him with the concept of a strategy grid and long-range planning in order to essentially achieve 5 aims, which are market penetration, product development, market development, differentiation, and vertical and horizontal integration. So Anzoff wants organisations to systematically prepare to benefit from future opportunities and to minimise future threats. Moreover, he develops the concept of gap analysis to help organisations to understand the gap between the present organisational position and the desired future position, and then to talk about the actions that are needed to plug that gap. So he designed a sequence of processes to help managers handle strategic decisions, and it consists of a number of steps, and students are encouraged to research gap analysis in greater detail. Essentially, for the purposes of today, it's a strategic framework to understand what growth strategy is more suited based on the market context. Now, there's other strategic frameworks that can be used as an alternative to Ansov matrix, and again, students are encouraged to research these, such as Porter's 5 Forces, BCG matrix, the Balanced Scorecard, Blue Ocean Strategy, to name only but a few. Now, in relation to process and steps, there are a number of simple steps in the process of strategic planning, as indicated here. The first step involves the organisation defining the vision, mission and organisational values that shape the strategic planning process. And as soon as steps are defined in a clear way, the organisation can then proceed to the second level, which involves analysing its external and internal environment. Porter's 5 Forces module could be used to conduct an environmental scan, for example. The second step involves conducting a SWOT analysis, an assessment of an organisation's internal strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats of the organisation's internal environment. Another environmental analysis tool used by organisations comes in the form of a PESTEL analysis, which assesses an organisation's external, political, economical, social, technological, legal and environmental factors. Similarly, other analysis tools and modules have been used by organisations. Gap analysis is used to analyse the difference between their current position and future position in the market. Thus, gap analysis involves the comparison of actual performance with potential or desired performance. Consequently, this enables organisations to develop specific strategies and align resources that can help them to bridge the gap and reach its desired state. And finally, organisations who use benchmarking, which is another analytical tool used for identifying an organisation's best practice by measuring and comparing its operations, practices and achievements against other organisations. The third step involves using a SMART model. That stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound. And that is used to develop specific strategy and operational objectives. And here, growing strategies evolve. They challenge future tactics and ultimately change an organisation's implemented strategy. The fourth and final stage involves action plans. So usually an organisation will continue evaluating its strategies, as well as assessing its strategic plan and involving change. Indeed, renewing an organisation's strategic plan, well, that can take several years. In addition, organisations have commonly used this scenario planning tool to help them to prepare for future possibilities, through which they can be more original and indeed agile in response. Therefore, assessing the success of strategic planning processes, well, it calls for an evaluation of periodic assessment of strategies and action programs. And these processes, well, those are essential to achieving success in this step. Further, annual or even monthly performance measures are essential to assess the impact of specific actions of an organisation. Therefore, that desired course of action, well, that's there to measure current performance against that predetermined expectation, as well as a consideration of any change of events that could affect the desired course of action. And lastly, organisations are expected to review their strategic plan after assessing their overall progress. Thus, this assessment reflects the entire strategic planning process. And consequently, the organisation will make any changes and amendments to the plan to ensure its effectiveness once it's been implemented. So essentially that's a short snapshot of strategic planning. And it's hoped and expected that as you progress throughout the programme, and in particular in relation to your WBL assessments from level 7 to level 10, that you take into consideration the area of strategic planning and some of the frameworks that I've just covered. You can have a look at some of the resources which are available in the university library as well. Thank you very much for listening.